Okay, let's get started. Distinguished guests, dear friends, since we are in different time zones, so I should like to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am Yang Faming. I am the Vice President of CCRP. Thank you for attending the third International Seminar on Religious and Ecological Civilizations, Harmony Between Man and Human and Nature, organized by CCRP and Religion for Peace together. At the request of Mr. Deng Zongliang, Deputy Moderator of ACRP and Executive Vice President of CCRP, I am going to be the host of this meeting. Due to the COVID pandemic, we are having this meeting only virtually rather than the hybrid event that we had planned with a venue in Beijing. So first of all, I would like to extend my sincere greetings to all the friends and all the colleagues that are present here at this meeting. Thanks to the joint efforts from CCRP and RFP International, we have had the pleasure to welcome guests from interreligious councils of Kenya, Uganda, Germany, UK, Australia, Peru, and India. And we also have the pleasure to have here with us representatives from 5 main religions from China. Now, let me introduce our guests here and for everyone to get acquainted and say hi to each other. First of all, let me introduce to you international participants. I'm Sheikh Ivladina and Dr. Elizabeth Norras, Mr. Ravindra Kaur Nija, Mr. Philippa Rowland, Ms. Canon Grace Casel, and Sawasawati, and Mr. Zistniki. And now let me introduce the Chinese participants here at this meeting. Venerable Yan Jue, Vice President Li Guangfu, Vice President Yang Faming, Chairman Ma Yingling, Vice President Wu Wei, Vice President Adili Jiang Ajike Muli, Deputy Secretary General Gu Mengfei, Vice President Zhang Gaocheng, Deputy Director General Lin Manhong, Chairperson Xu Huaqing, Secretary General La Can, Deputy Secretary General Yu Shuang. The theme of this meeting is Religions and Ecological Civilization, Harmony Between Human and Nature. Environmental problem has become a shared global challenge. In recent years, climate challenge has wreaked havoc on multiple countries and multiple regions. In particular, the ongoing COVID pandemic and all the changes in international situation has brought us all together. We are all in this together. So first of all, I would like to propose that let's pray for world peace and development in our own ways. Now, this is the end of the prayer. Vice President of the National Committee of the PCC and President of the CCRP and Honorable President of RFP International, Venerable Habak Galag Najai, fully appreciates the importance of this seminar. He prepared a speech which is going to be delivered by Reverend Wu Wei, Vice President of the CCRP and President of the China Christian Council. So please, Wu Wei. And now I would like to read the written remark by President Papra Glag 9J at the third International Seminar on Religions and Ecological Civilization, Harmony Between Human and Nature. Fellow colleagues, honorable guests, dear friends, may you find peace in your heart. Today, we are gathered here at the third International Seminar on Religions and Ecological Civilization. As the Vice Chairman of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, I would like to extend my heartfelt congratulations to Religions for Peace and CCRP for holding an international meeting together for the very first time. As the honorary president of RFP International and the president of the CCRP, I would also like to warmly welcome all the guests that are present here today on behalf of these two organizations. At present, the COVID pandemic, regional conflicts, and also the ongoing competition between the major powers have led to compounded by food prices, energy prices, and debt prices. As a result of those multiple challenges, global climate governance is put under strain, especially with a weak economic recovery. And this year has seen flood in southeast part of Australia, which has the natural disasters have also destroyed the homes of Pakistani at the expense of both lives and the local property, the local infrastructure, and the impact of climate change is all too obvious, and that highlights the urgency for us all to work together for the protection of the environment. Chinese President Xi Jinping has clearly indicated that planet Earth is one big family and the human race belongs to the one community. And as climate change has posed a common challenge to all humanity, mankind should work together to address the issue. As we come from different civilizations, religions across different parts of the world, although we have our own teachings, we have a shared interest in nature. The religious community, therefore, should find a way to bring the world together and protect the environment, protect the planet Earth to that end. We must respect our differences, learn from each other through equal dialogues and communication, and pull global community together to build consensus through deepened cooperation. That is what this meeting all about. And this is exactly the very purpose of this joint meeting by CCRP and our Religion for Peace International. This meeting, titled the Third International Seminar on Religions and Ecological Civilization, hosted by the CCRP, is themed on harmony between man and nature. We have had two successful events, and today we are here to talk about the sustainable development. And apart from the Chinese wisdom, we also expect to hear contributions from other cultures and other civilizations with regard to environmental protection. Fellow colleagues, dear friends, as the Chinese saying goes, we are not alone in the great way, and the whole world is one family. When the loss and the damage found an issue of a major concern to developing countries, gained new progress at the 2022 UN Climate Change Conference, COP17, we saw the will of all countries to stand together, the actions to fight against the climate change. China, for its part, provides global public goods to improve food security, control climate change, support clean energy, and reduce plastic pollution. For our community, leaders and the scholars should work together to protect the environment, help humans to coexist with nature and preserve the planet. And hopefully religious leaders from all across the world could work together to make our share of contribution to protect the environment, to build a community of a shared future between man and nature. So as I said, to work together for the protection of our planet Earth. And finally, I wish this conference a complete success. And I wish you all a happy and auspicious New Year. That is the end of the speech. Thank you very much, President Wu Wei. The meeting is also supported by the co-host RFP International. And its Secretary General, Professor Azam Karam, recorded a video as well. So let's play the video.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. I am deeply honored to be able to say a few words. I wish I could be with you in person, but it doesn't seem like we have this opportunity yet. We pray that there will be an opportunity for us all to come together again. I wish to pay very respectful tribute to the China Committee of Religions for Peace. One of the most distinguished, one of the oldest and most strongly leading affiliates of Religions for Peace global movement, the China Committee of Religions for Peace has also been a leader in championing issues of environmental awareness and conservation and preservation. We are therefore deeply honored to have been approached by the China Committee of Religions for Peace at the global level to co-sponsor and co-host this very important conversation that comes post the COP27 and just as the COP, the Conference of Parties on Biodiversity, is coming to a conclusion. Needless to say, we are at a very critical junction of our common existence on this one planet Earth. We have a very critical obligation as human beings to not only ensure the survival of the most vulnerable as opposed to the survival of the fittest, but our obligation is not only to the survival of the most vulnerable, but to ensure, as religions working together for peace, peace in the broadest positive peace sense, we have an obligation to ensure that the quality of this survival is dignified. And this is the most important and critical element. Governments are meeting in every fora at every opportunity on an annual basis. Non-governmental organizations, secular as well as faith-based, have also been meeting on a regular basis to assess, discuss, and try to come together with a unified vision of the kind of future that we need in order to save our planet, save planet Earth. The truth is that we are already late in trying to ensure that we are not only saving planet Earth, but sustaining the dignity of all living species on this planet, not only for the sake of future generations, but for the sake of a healthy universe and cosmos. Our mission as people of faith is actually much bigger than the mission of any one government. Our mission as people of faith is to safeguard the dignity of every living species on this planet, at the same time that we actually seek to ensure that there is no war on our Earth, no armed conflict on our Earth. We cannot prevent all conflicts, for they are a normal part of human existence, but we most certainly can prevent armed conflicts. And this is the reason we are deeply committed as Religions for Peace to work together for positive peace. The understanding of positive peace is not simply the absence of war. The understanding of positive peace is not simply that we can save our environment. Rather, it is an understanding of the intricate, interconnected, and absolutely indivisible nature of dignity of all living species. That means that as we seek to resolve the conflicts, armed conflicts around us, we also must be absolutely determined to work together to do so. For no one religion and no one government can save our world in this present moment or ever. The call, whether it is from the pandemic or climate change or armed conflicts in every corner of our world, the call, the absolute imperative for us is to work together regardless of our differences, whether they be ethnic, whether they be religious, whether they be national, whether they be geographic, whether they be racial, whether they be gendered. It is time to understand that our differences are an integral part of our diversity, and our diversity, the diversity of all living species, is an integral part of dignity. And this is the message that we must understand and that we are committed to as the entire Global Religions for Peace movement. This is the message that our China Committee of Religions for Peace upholds, safeguards, demonstrates through their own exemplar leadership. We stand at a moment of time where to deny the humanity and the dignity of any group is to deny fundamental basic decency, that to deny the dignity of any one group or community is to take away what is left of our earth. For no sustainability, no quality of dignity is possible when there is any corner of suffering of any living species. Biodiversity loss threatens us all. And what came out very clearly from subsequent meetings over 27 years by the government and non-governmental organizations, and now the private sector, what came out very clearly is that working together is not an option. Working together is a necessary part of the survival of living species, let alone of the dignity of each and every living being. We therefore have an obligation to think together, to reflect together. Why do we find it so difficult to work together in spite of our differences? We are created differently. Difference is part of our very need of existence. Without difference, we would not exist. It is absolutely imperative for us to work together. Perhaps the untried as yet alternative to everything we see around us is the power, the unimaginable power of religions when they work together. When religions collaborate, no challenge is too big and no accomplishment is insignificant. Religions for Peace leaders in 2019, before the outbreak of the COVID pandemic, came together and committed to the Sustainable Development Goals Agenda, otherwise known as Agenda 2030. This means that the Religions for Peace leaders from every single corner of the world, representing every faith tradition, are committed to working together on all aspects of human and environmental safeguarding and protection and preservation and sustainability. Perhaps what we have yet to do is to understand the value of religions working together. Perhaps what we must do is also to realize that since no government can work on its own to safeguard our entire planet, we therefore have to support governments to work in solidarity with one another. But we cannot support governments to work in solidarity with one another if we ourselves, as civilians, as people of different faiths, of different ethnicities and racial and gendered and national and geographic diversity, if we ourselves cannot show that solidarity with one another. And the question that I always ask ourselves is, if not now, when? And if not people of faith, then who? I hope we will spend the next couple of hours listening to one another with an open heart, an open mind, and an even bigger open spirit. Let us see not only where we may not be performing, I don't want to say the word failing, but where we may not, as people of faith, be performing as good as perhaps we should. But more importantly, let us try to understand how, as people of faith, we can perform better for the survival of and the dignity of every living species. Let us assess how well we have worked as people of faith so that we can be the examples to set for governments, for the private sector, and for other secular civil society organizations. Let us be the example. The proliferation of multiple forms of activities, projects, and initiatives, per definition, is not a sign of success, nor is proliferation of initiatives necessarily going to help us achieve the common goals. Rather than proliferation, we need more determined, efficient collaboration. What does determined and efficient collaboration mean exactly in order to save our environment? Religions for Peace collaborated with the government of Germany in 2019, 2020, and 2021. Religions for Peace collaborated with the City Council of Manresa just a couple of weeks ago. Systematically and throughout the discussions, the conversations, and the convening was bringing together different faith leaders, men and women, young and older, with government, diplomats, with private sector colleagues, and very critically, with both those in the government, national governments, and those in the city and urban centers, local councils. The mission is to secure the coming together to converse with one another. The mission is also to secure that the voices of youth, especially the diverse youth from different faith traditions, are able to be loudly understood and heard. But in order for our young people to be the leaders that they are already more efficiently, for them to be more efficient leaders, in order for this to happen, the older generation needs to provide them with a kind of exemplary leadership across any division, in spite of all divisions. This is the time to be examples of leadership in the faith world, in the secular world, in the governmental world, in the intergovernmental world, and in the non-governmental world. Religions for Peace will proudly support and stand behind all those who believe that the dignity of all is dependent on the dignity of the most vulnerable amongst us, and that the dignity of all living species is dependent on the dignity of the most vulnerable species amongst us. It isn't only about us as humans. It should be, and forever must be, about every living species. For our dignity as a humanity is safeguarded when we can ensure and respect that all living creatures, all living species are respected, are protected, are safeguarded. That's our mission. There is no other common mission, because without this earth, truly, we may be thinking of the different planets, but what good will we do on the different planets if we lose this earth? What good can we imagine ourselves being able to accomplish on another planet if we lose this beautiful earth? That's the question we must understand. The problem, the challenge, the opportunity is here and now. Faith is the most powerful source of motivation, inspiration, love, kindness, compassion, and dignity. Faiths are the blood that runs through our veins, is the water that runs under the ground, that feeds us all, that keeps us alive. Let us be dignified in our faiths and with our faiths for our faiths. That ultimately is the mission of Religions for Peace, and that's a common mission to safeguard dignity. Let us learn from one another, let us hear one another, and let us be compassionate. Once again, I wish to thank our co-sponsors, the China Committee of Religions for Peace, for hosting this third important conversation, and we look forward to always learning from them and through them and with them. I wish you many blessings.
感谢卡拉姆秘书长。中州河为今天的研讨会特别制作了相关的视频。
The CCRP also made a special video for today's seminar. Please play the video.
Human beings have only one Earth. Man and nature are a community of life. Destruction of ecological environment poses a common challenge for the whole world. Respecting adapting to and protecting nature, harmony between man and nature, and moderately harnessing nature are important concepts of traditional Chinese culture. The Chinese President Xi Jinping puts forward thought on ecological civilization. According to him, lucid waters and large mountains are invaluable assets. Booming ecosystem is accompanied by prospering civilization. Located on the Qinghai Tibet Plateau, Sanjiangyuan, the Three River Source region is the birthplace of the Yangtze River, the Yellow River, and the Lantang River. In 2021, Three River Source National Park was selected as one of the first national parks in China. Under continuous efforts for 3 generations of people, Saihanbao area in China, which transforms from a desert into the world's largest artificial forest farm, has been recognized with Champions of the Earth Award, the United Nations' highest environmental honor. The Chinese people will take the road of civilized development, featuring increased productivity, improved living standards, and sound eco-conditions, also contribute to solving ecological and environmental problems facing human beings. Ramsar COP14 side event 2022 was successfully held in Wuhan City, China. China played a positive role in the complete success of the 27th Conference of the Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, COP27, and the 15th Conference of the Parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity, CBD COP15. China Committee on Religion and Peace and Chinese religious figures are making due contributions to the protection of the ecological environment.
环保是世界范围这个问题，也是当今人类共同关心的一个问题。那么我们呢，发挥宗教优秀的保护大自然的理念，做广泛宣传，结合国家美陆乡村建设，讲的环保。
既然宗教是世界公认的人类文明的一个重要组成部分，就应该成为保护文明、珍惜资源、爱护地球、保护环境的有生力量。全球的宗教界都应该各自差异，摒弃政治、地缘的纠纷，团结起来，合作。
先知穆罕默德号召我们保护自然，爱惜和保护自己的生活环境，让我们携起手来，共同承担起保护自然的重任，爱护自然，保护自然，增强环保意识，维持生态平衡，建设绿色环保的美好家园。
就宗教的讲，其实青山这个绿化也好，空气也好，水养都有这个，都有这个。我们响应习主席号召，结合我们的教会的教育相结合，我们现在起了作用了，这是最主要的。
就是基督教因为相信世界万物都是上帝所造的了，是吧？人也是上帝所造的，而且按照创世纪来说呢，这个上帝是给人一个责任，要对这个自然界要修理看守。好的，但是我想，我们各个教都可以结合自己的教义，能够发挥它的这个正确的理解，来推动这个生态环境的改善，能够做更多的工作。
China Committee on Religion and Peace upholds President Xi Jinping's thought on ecological civilization, responds to the call of the Chinese government for ecological and environmental protection, contributes to the sustained development of China's environmental protection, and plays an active role in environmental protection work. In recent years, China Committee on Religion and Peace has held many international seminars on the theme of ecological and environmental protection. The road is just under our feet. Let us make concerted efforts to build a life community of man and nature, and jointly unveil the clean and beautiful earth, our common home.
今天各位嘉宾将结合
Today, our guests will draw on their tenets, the classics, and their own experience to share with us their knowledge, their wisdom for the conservation of the environment from the perspectives of their own religions. I am sure there will be new ideas through such communication between cultures and religions. So now the floor is yours. Please manage your time to within 8 minutes, because I am very conscious of the time difference. Thank you very much for your cooperation. First, I would like to turn it over to the Venerable Yan Jue, Vice President of the CCRP and the President of the Buddhist Association of China. Please. Distinguished Secretary General, Mr. Karam, distinguished friends from the religious communities, both in China and in the international community. It is a great pleasure for me to get together with all of you virtually to attend the third international webinar themed Religions and Ecological Civilization. On behalf of the Buddhist Association of China and the Chinese Buddhist community, I would like to extend our sincere greetings to all the friends from the religious community from all across the world. Greetings to all of you, best wishes to all of you. The natural environment is the basis of a human survival and a human development. And Buddhism believes that all living things and the environment in which they live in are together, they are inseparable. It is emphasized that only a purified heart can ensure a pure land. A purified heart will be followed by a pure Buddha's land. So to protect the environment, to protect the nature, to clean the environment, we must start with purifying our own heart by removing our internal obsession and troubles and establishing the right outlook on ecological civilization. Buddhism believes that all sentient beings have a Buddha in their heart and they share a common destiny. Therefore, we should cherish and protect their lives as if we cherish the lives of our own. After the concept of ecological civilization, that is an inherent part of the Buddhist philosophy, was introduced into China. It also was integrated into the traditional Chinese culture, the Chinese view of nature, and gradually we developed this Buddhist outlook on nature and ecology with Chinese characteristics. For example, the Chinese Buddhism believes the inanimate objects also have a Buddha somewhere in them. The old saying that green bamboos all have a Dharma bodies, while gloomy and yellow flowers are nothing but pranja. This implies that the Dharma body of a Buddha is contained in the nature, and the true meaning of the Buddhism can also be achieved through through the natural environment. And for thousands of years, generations of the Chinese eminent monks have been adhering to the Buddhist spirit of compassion and practicing the Buddhist ecological civilizational concept. They advocate setting animals free and also preserving the frugal and the simple way of life. They not only make full use of the clean and beautiful natural environment, but also they love their life or protect the environment, and they share their own wisdom and also give back to the nature with compassion. In such a way, they have created the Buddhism ecological civilization and make their own share of contribution to the world. Since the 18th National Party's Congress, since the National Congress of the Communist Party of China, the party and the government have attached the great importance to constructing ecological civilization. The idea of President Xi Jinping that lucid waters and the lush mountains are invaluable assets has become a common understanding of the whole society. The party and the government have been lending the Chinese people to leading the Chinese people to persist with a holistic and a systematic approach to conserving and improving mountain water, forest, farmland, grassland, and destroy desert ecosystems. China's ecological conservation systems have therefore been improved, and over the past 10 years or so, in an active response to the call of the party and the government, the Buddhist Association of China has been uniting and leading the Buddhist community in China to inherit and practice the Chinese Buddhism philosophy of ecological conservation so as to actively fulfill the social responsibility of the Buddhist community and contribute to the building of a beautiful China. We have been exploring and carrying forward the ecological civilization philosophy in Buddhist classics, schools, and culture. When preaching to the believers, we explain those philosophies in simple terms that in a way that keep pace with the times, so as to constantly improve their awareness, to improve the environment, for them to love their lives and save resources. And we have also been advocating environmentally friendly incensing and also setting the animals in captivity free in a environmentally friendly way as well. We have made various efforts to address the pollution due to burning large scale and low quality incense and the invasion of alien species caused by the improper freeing of those animals. For one thing, we try to guide the believers to correctly understand the Buddhist significance of incense worshipping and setting those animals free, and to practice their faith and express their good wishes in a scientific and a reasonable way. For another, temples all over the country with where conditions permit, we will also do it in a way that is friendly to the environment. And we have also been carrying out activities to create ecological monasteries or monasteries that are environmentally friendly. Continuous efforts have been made to inherit the traditional concept of a harmonious coexistence between humanity and nature in monasteries and carry forward the spirit of reducing desires and being in Buddhism. To this end, we have been guiding and encouraging Buddhist community to use green, low carbon and environmentally friendly building materials and the technologies in the construction and maintenance of monasteries, and adopt a resource saving and environmentally friendly way of practice. And we have been carrying out public non-profit activities for the protection of the environment. We have been actively engaged in afforestation and providing support for protecting the environment and biodiversity, making our share. What's more, we have been guiding our believers to care about the environmental protection, ecology, and life. By carrying out the above activities, we have gained the following experience. First of all, it is important to adapt the practice of Buddhist principles to align it with the needs of the times. We should organically combine the Buddhism philosophy of ecological civilization with the modern outlook of a scientific development. Second, we must be committed to solving problems when practicing the Buddhism concept of ecological civilization. We must solve the problems, correct the old habits in a way that protects the environment. Third, we must align what we know with what we do in our practice. Emphasis should be made on our religious belief, integrating environmentally friendly way of life into our practice. I wish to share this experience with you, with the friends from the religious circles. Hopefully that will be of help to you. And at the 20th National Congress of the Communist Party of China, it provided us with the grand blueprint of China's development in the next 5 years. The report of the Congress clearly pointed out that promoting harmony between humanity and nature is an essential part of China's modernization effort. In the future, the Buddhist Association of China will continue to lead the Chinese Buddhism community to practice ecological civilization and to carry forward our traditions of Buddhism and work together with the other people across the country to build our beautiful country. And we sincerely hope to work in collaboration with friends from all across the world, all countries, all regions, and all religions to address climate change, control pollution, and protect biodiversity, because we want to make sure that we play a positive role in all these efforts. We would also like to make our share of contribution to human beings' effort to build a cleaner and a more beautiful future, a community with shared future. I wish you all the best of luck and good health. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much, Professor Venerable Yanjue, for sharing with us the views from the Chinese Buddhism. And now I'd like to turn it over to Sheikh Ibrahim Lanson from Environmental Commission from IRC of Kenya and the Supreme Council of Kenya Muslims, please. Hello, we can't hear you. Representative from Kenya. Sorry, we can't hear you. Please carry forward. Let's move on to the next speaker for the time being. Okay. And now I'd like to turn it over to Venerable Li Gangfu, Vice President of the CCRP and President of the Taoist Association of China.
Dear friends from the religious circles, it is a great honor for me to be invited to attend the third International Seminar on Religions and Ecological Civilization, Harmony between Human and Nature, to talk about ecological civilization from the perspective of our different religions. At present, the most serious and urgent global problem undoubtedly is lurking in the field of ecological environment. The crisis may break out at any time, posing serious challenges and threats to the life and property of human beings. Besides the above-mentioned impacts, the ecological problem is also inflicting a cultural crisis. The relationship between human and nature is not just about opposition, it also features the pursuit of recognition, coordination, synergization, organic integration, and positive interactions, which unfortunately has been weakened by the modes of production and ways of life in the industrial era. It is the sacred mission and the social responsibility of religions to explore and promote the benign culture of harmonious coexistence between humanity and nature for their harmony and unity and for the well-being of mankind. It is necessary for all religious cultures to consciously provide spiritual inspirations and play a positive role in solving global ecological problems. As a native religion in China, Taoism pursues harmony and unity among different people and between humanity and nature, thus producing a holistic and equal ecological outlook centered on the idea that Tao follows nature. As for the ecological civilization, Taoism has its own unique insights, which can be summarized in the following few words. Tao, heaven and earth. Tao means the source of all things. Heaven and earth means the main components of nature, and humanity, that means the living beings between human and nature. We all know that the core idea of Tao Te Ching, the fundamental classic of Taoism, is that everything in the world was born out of Tao. Taoism believes that Tao is the origin of all things and the root of all changes. Heaven, earth, and humanity are all the products of Tao and share an equal position. Neither party is superior or inferior to the others. Heaven and earth, these are the main components of nature. Heaven and earth are all produced by Tao. What is their relationship among the three? According to Tao Te Ching, human follows the earth follows the heaven follows Tao, and Tao follows nature. The idea that Tao follows nature represents an attitude of no selfishness, no desires, and no intervening actions, and also a status of running along the natural course. Here, no intervening actions is the way that heaven runs, which reminds us to follow the development law of the nature rather than taking forcible or reckless actions going against the Tao or damage nature. At the same time, earth carries and nourishes all things. To maintain biodiversity is the way that earth runs. Taoism emphasizes that everything tangible has the characteristics of Tao, indicating that all things living in a community of shared destiny with equal status. The pivotal ancient figure in Taoism, Zhuangzi, once said, "Heaven and earth coexist with me, and all things are one with me." These all reflect the Taoist ecological outlook of pursuing mutual respect and harmonious coexistence between humanity and all other things in nature. Humanity, living beings between heaven and earth. Among all things in the world, humanity is the most intelligent. As an important pole with heaven and earth being its counterparts, humanity is endowed with more essence and energy, and therefore is full of spirituality. But this should by no means excuse human attempts to dominate the world. Rather, human beings should reckon Tao as the highest belief that guides the actions and the mind. It is highly expected that humanity will restrain greed and desires, love all others in nature, and embrace a simple life attitude and style, so as to create a harmonious world for every one of us. Harmony, the ideal relationship among heaven, earth, and humanity, and the ultimate goal of ecological civilization. Heaven, earth, and humanity are not independent and irrelevant, but an organic system of mutual assistance and integration. According to the Taoist classic Taiping, heaven, earth, and humanity are three bodies born of the same origin. Despite their different forms, the three share the same root and are united by Tao. It is for this reason that mutual respect and mutual love between humanity and nature are even more required. Well, to harm all other things in nature is to harm humanity itself. This is the ecological significance of the Taoist idea that all things were born out of Tao. The ultimate goal of this outlook is to achieve the harmonious coexistence of heaven, earth, and humanity, and the common prosperity on the premise of preserving inherent qualities, highlighting unique characteristics, and maintaining balance. All in all, the above is what harmony means. I feel very honored to share with you the Taoism views on Tao, heaven, earth, humanity, and harmony in this seminar, and I look forward to acquiring insights and experiences from your speeches. Ecological issues pose global challenges, and the solution of which can be closely connected with religious culture. It is of great significance that today we have transcended the boundaries of race, country, and religion to provide religious perspectives and spiritual inspirations for the protection of our common ecological environment. All religions should jointly practice beneficial ecological ideas and give full play to our influence and appeal, so as to promote the well-being of all mankind and build a green and beautiful home. Thank you. Thank you, President Li. As a Chinese traditional religion, Taoism has much wisdom about man and nature, very enlightening. Now, let's welcome Sheikh Ibrahimia from Kenya to give us a speech.
Yeah, thank you very much. And sorry, I had some connection problems. May I begin with the greetings of Islam, the greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of God be with you all. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to share with you the Islamic perspective of what our role is as people of faith in protecting the environment. And I would like to begin with the question that was posed by our sister, Professor Azakaram. She said, if not the people of faith, who then? I want to believe that we as the people of faith, as the custodians of the teachings from the creator of the world, we are best placed to protect the environment. So I'm going to give my presentation from an Islamic perspective. And I want to begin by posing a question. Is faith an asset or a liability in protecting the environment? And the answer from an Islamic perspective is that religion is an asset in environmental protection. Remember, it is God Almighty that created us and created the environment and all the resources that they are in. And it is we, the religious people, the people of faith, who have the teachings. We are the custodians of the teachings of God, so we are best placed to protect the environment. From an Islamic perspective, a Muslim has a duty to respect and manage nature because we are the representatives of God on earth. In the Quran, chapter 2, verse 30, God Almighty tells us, behold, thy Lord said to the angels, I will create a Khalifa on earth. So from this verse, we and many other verses, human beings have a responsibility. We are stewards of the earth, but not the owners of the earth. So we have a responsibility. We need to take care. We have a responsibility towards all the creations of God. That includes animals, plants, water, and everything that is on this earth. We have a responsibility. So according to the teachings of Islam, it is a sin to do anything that will destroy God's creation. The best way is to preserve it the way God created it. Islam, if you look at the teachings of Islam, you'll come to the conclusion that Islam is genetically an environmental religion. Islam actually is a green religion. What is the evidence from the teachings of Islam that Islam is a religion, a green religion? From the Quran, there are many verses, but I would just like to quote some examples. In Quran chapter 6, verse 165, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "It is He who has made you guardians on the earth." God has given us the responsibility and entrusted it, has given us the trust and the responsibility of taking care of the earth. In another verse, God Almighty says, He raised the heaven and established the balance so that you would not overstep the balance. So we need to maintain the balance, which in Islam we call mizan, between we as the human beings, the guardians of the earth, and what else God has created. The importance of a balanced relationship with the environment is also stressed in several other verses of the Quran. For example, the resources in this world are for us to use, but we must use them moderately. In Quran chapter 6, verse 161, and many other verses, God has said, "But waste not by excess, for Allah does not like those who commit excesses." So we use the resources that God has given us, but we should use that with moderation. Another evidence from the teachings of the Prophet, may peace be upon him, that Islam is actually a green religion, a religion that is supposed to preserve the environment. The Prophet, may peace be upon him, said, do not waste water, even if you are at a running stream. You could be at a river or any water body, but even then you should not waste. In another teaching, the Prophet, may peace be upon him, said, whoever reclaims and cultivates dry, barren land, actually in Islam it is called dead land, that person will be rewarded by God for that act. So long as men and animals benefit from it, He will record it for him as a sadaqah, as if it is a charity. So Islam encourages reviving land, reclaiming land that is dead, okay, that is not useful to human beings. In another teaching, the Prophet ﷺ tells us, the most merciful one is merciful towards those who are merciful. Act kindly to those on earth, and that includes human beings and animals, plants, and everything that God has put in nature, so that those in heavens, those are the angels, may be merciful to you. So from the teachings of the Quran, from the teachings of the Prophet, may peace be upon him, it is evident that as a Muslim, I have the responsibility of taking care of the earth and all the creations that God has put in them. We need also to be realistic as people of faith, that the reality we are facing today is that we are facing a global emergency, an environmental crisis, which is manifesting itself in the form of global warming, melting ice caps. Here in Kenya, the top of Mount Kenya, which is always covered with ice, has melted. Mount Kilimanjaro, the roof of Africa, has melted. Air pollution, deforestation, plastic pollution, food waste, and many others. This is the crisis that we are facing. The question that we ask ourselves is why? The answer from an Islamic perspective is, this is because of what we have done ourselves as human beings. Allah says in the Quran, corruption has spread on land and sea as a result of what we people have done with our hands, so that Allah may cause them to test the consequences of some of their deeds. Today we are testing the consequences of our deeds, and perhaps they might return to the right path. And that's why today we are here in this forum to ask ourselves, do we have a duty to preserve the world? Have we done something wrong? We need to return back, because today we are facing the consequences of our deeds.
It's 11 o'clock.
When we talk about corruption that is mentioned here in the verse, it refers also to neglecting the environment, not doing what we are supposed to do to protect the environment. Perversion, doing things in the extreme, over exploiting the resources that God has given us. It also means the imbalanced use of natural resources. We are witnessing the devastating consequences of our actions through either commission, doing the wrong thing, or omission, not doing what we are supposed to do as human beings to protect and preserve the environment. According to the Islamic teachings, man has destroyed the environment by obeying Satan. So destruction of the environment is obedience to Satan and not obedience to God. Because in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, and he, Satan, said, I will surely mislead them, meaning human beings, and surely I will order them to change the nature created by God. So by destroying the environment, actually we are disobeying God and we are following the path of Satan. What is the way forward? As religious leaders, we have a duty to guide the faithful in restoring the environment through the following actions. And I am suggesting this from an Islamic perspective. Step number one, we need to appreciate that we have a crisis, an environmental crisis. Humanity is facing this problem today. Number two, we need to appreciate that we have a religious duty to protect and restore the environment. Number three, we need to identify the divine teachings, each one of us according to their divine teachings. We identify those teachings on the preservation of the environment. Number four, we need to mainstream these teachings in our daily religious activities. As we preach in our places of worship, we need to make sure that we talk about the environment and use the teachings from our scriptures to encourage people to protect and preserve the environment. Then number six, we need to use every available opportunity or platform to sensitize our followers about their duties towards the environment, each one of us according to their ability. Then we need to come up with religiously motivated activities to protect the environment. For example, tree planting as a religious activity, avoiding wastage as a religious way of dealing with things. And as the other speakers have said, if all faiths come together, because when you talk about a tree, there is no Muslim tree, there is no Christian tree, there is no Buddhist tree, there is no Chinese tree. A tree is a tree, a river is a river, and when we come together, then we can rescue the world. Then we need to remind our followers that protecting and restoring the environment is part of enjoining what is good, which we call in Islam ma'ruf, and forbidding what is evil, which we call munkar. And in Islam, we have been ordered. One of our basic responsibilities is that we have to enjoin what is good and forbid what is evil. Destruction of the environment is evil, so all of us have a duty to forbid it. We have many relevant teachings of Islam towards protecting the environment. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us to be mindful of the environment by keeping away from being wasteful. He says, "O children of Adam, take your adornment at every masjid and eat and drink, but be not excessive. Indeed, he likes those who do not commit excesses." So we have a religious duty of taking care and preserving the environment, avoiding over-consuming and over-exploiting its resources. Then in another teaching, the Prophet has urged the believers to plant trees, which is considered as ibadah. He said, even if Qiyamah, the last day, has occurred, while any one of you is holding a plant in his hands, then you should take time and plant it. That is how important it is. In another hadith, he refers to the act of planting a tree as an act of charity. The Prophet, may peace be upon him, also reminds the believers to take care of cleanliness and avoid pollution. And cleanliness is considered as part of faith. Again, to end also, we need to avoid activities that contribute to environmental distractions. So believers are encouraged to refrain from engaging in the following practices. 1, deforestation. 2, pollution, including noise, air, and water pollution. Okay. Number 3, overconsumption of any resources. 4, non-essential usage of plastics and non-renewable materials. Number 6, excessiveness or waste, including electricity, water, and gas excesses, which we call israf. So we need to take care of the environment. So we need also to look at the relevant religious teachings, because at the end of the day, protecting and restoring the environment is a form of worship, because worship is our relationship with God, our relationship with fellow human beings, our relationship with other creatures of God, including animals and plants, our relationship with the environment. All this, if we do it according to the wish of God Almighty, and that is to protect it and make proper use of it, thinking about others, as according to the teaching of Islam, none of you is a true believer until you love for others what you love for yourself. We need to think about the future generation. Then we need to be moderate in whatever we do, and we need to avoid pollution. So in short, we as people of faith are best placed to protect and preserve the environment, restore the environment, because we have in our hands the divine teachings from the creator of the world himself. And I hope through this platform, we shall be able to translate whatever resolutions we make here, whatever ideas that will be shared here into action, so that we can protect the earth, because God says God will not change a people, the situation of a people, until the people themselves change them. Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abraham Litherton. And I am also very happy to hear views from the Muslim brother from Kenya. And now I would like to turn it over to the president of RIP Germany, chair of religious education and didactic of religious education at the University of Augsburg, Dr. Elisabeth Noharth, please.
I would like to greet you all very warmly. Thank you for having me this morning here in Germany. I'm sorry, I've got a bit of a cold, but I'm hoping that I can express myself clearly. I want to speak about climate crisis in Europe, the role of religious actors for international cooperation. First, I would like to say, nature conservation is not an isolated field of action, but embedded in the development of society as a whole. This means that more than before, the interrelationships of socio-political self-understandings of individuals, as well as groups, have to be seen on the basis of value-based interconnections. In short, one could say that the complexity of the interaction of social and ecological systems plays an evidential role in understanding, initiating, and shaping system-inherent dynamics. Existing structures of interreligious networks can be used to further develop joint initiatives for the protection of the environment in a scientifically based way in order to achieve synergy effects between religious as well as social diversity approaches in this way. Two dimensions are at stake here. First, promoting the implementation of climate goals, and second, asserting the cause of climate justice. What can I say from the European perspective? An unprecedented drought and heat in Europe in 2022 demonstrated the obviousness of climate change with its massive consequences and damages. Since the beginning of weather records, the summer of 2022 must be considered the hottest and driest summer in the Mediterranean region. The damages are immense and range from direct impacts on human health, as well as forest fires on an unprecedented scale, economic collapses in agriculture, and municipal drinking water supply. Especially in Spain and Portugal, the European Forest Fire Information System recorded forest fires on a scale of more than 7,000 square kilometers, which not only caused excessive damage to flora and fauna in terms of lost biodiversity, but also increased the release of carbon dioxide to its highest level ever in Europe. We are thus witnessing a vicious circle with regard to climate change and the planned achievement of the necessary climate targets, because the consequences of the climatically induced damage increase the changes and reduce the chances of preserving our natural basis of life. What is the background? While the natural science have been pointed out these threats incessantly and for a long time, actually since the report of the Club of Rome more than 50 years ago, and we can assume a broad environmental knowledge today, both scientifically secured and established in the population, a serious, inadequate desideratum in environmental action must be recorded. Too little attention has been paid to the close connection between environmental and social policy. In other words, the implementation of environmental policy goals depends crucially on the consideration of social systems. However, it must also be noted that with regard to the social and societal effects of environmental policy, there are still considerable gaps in knowledge. Closing these is an important prerequisite for identifying needs for action and for successfully designing and implementing environmental policy. In this context, the relevance of religions as social systems is to be seen in special, more strongly perceived importance than before, since especially in the connection of the theological ethics peculiar to religions as inherent value systems with regard to the handling of creation, nature for environmental protection high potentials lie, I think. Promoting the willingness to engage in interreligious cooperation for environmental and climate protection is a decisive impulse for maintaining peace and security. By raising awareness of the environmental ethical potential of interreligious cooperation and education, environmental ethics can lead to evident synergies for environmental protection and nature conservation. This applies to both the national and the international context. However, this requires increased environmental ethics awareness, which can ultimately be translated into individual as well as socially relevant action strategies and thus implemented. Religions, as the largest transnational civil society institutions, offer immense potential for ecological consciousness raising on the basis of the theologies of creation or nature spiritualities that basically unite all the world's major religions and which have so far been brought into the public eye too little as a common potential for responsibility in environmental ethics. What are the future perspectives in my view? In many religious communities, therefore, there is already a wide-ranging commitment to ecological projects. Representative examples from the Christian context are the current initiative Churches for Future, Churches Worldwide for Climate Justice, or the Islamic initiative Green Iftar. On this basis, it is evident to carry out a review of national religious and interreligious initiatives in order to verify commonalities, differences, and possibilities of forcing international collaboration. It is expected that already here, the interconnectedness of religion as a social system and its interaction with with contextual ecological systems can be named more clearly. In the future, these findings must be constructively developed into concepts of interreligious and at the same time environmental, ethical, educational work. In addition to necessary international efforts to enforce jointly adopted climate goals, Paris Agreement, and a strategy of responsibility for climate justice, there is also a need to advance awareness raising, consciousness raising, promoting of dialogue and cooperation skills in environmental ethics at national, regional, and local religious and interreligious levels, which in turn will prove fruitful for international interreligious networks. Consequently, it is a matter of strengthening and promoting social awareness for the conservation of natural living resources and implementation of climate goals in such a way that people who are at home in religious communities or who feel they belong to them in the broadest sense visualize, develop and implement environmental ethical impulses on the basis of their faith in a forward-looking manner. In addition, it is about the responsibility for peace and justice, which is to be understood to the religions in the sense of a theological mission for positive peace. Climate-related environmental catastrophes threaten peaceful coexistence and lead to massive flight and migration movements to the loss of natural resources. Religious communities and interfaith networks should work in their context to respect climate-induced refugees and strengthen responsibility for a global sense of community. This also means working harder in social-political terms for inclusion in the host countries of the North less affected by climate change. At the same time, however, it also means using commitment, networking, and compensation payments to promote climate-supporting projects in countries that are necessarily dependent on support due to climate damage or development needs. Thank you for your attention.
感谢伊丽莎白女士你经验很丰富。
Thank you, Dr. Elizabeth. And from your speech, we have learned a lot. As president of Islamic Association of China, I'd like to offer an insight from Chinese Islam. Honorable President Pabala Gleik Nagam, Secretary General Azar Karam, dear friends, hello everyone. It is a great honor to be invited to participate in the third International Seminar on Religions and Ecological Civilization. First of all, on behalf of China Islamic Association, I would like to offer my warm congratulations on the convening of this seminar. Ecology is fundamental for human survival and sustainable development. All countries, groups, and individuals are duty-bound to protect the environment. Today, China Committee on Religion and Peace and Religions for Peace International focus on the positive contribution made by religious circles to ecological conservation, demonstrating major concern for the global ecological crisis. It is hoped that our dialogue and exchanges will convey to the world the values of the religious circles to protect the environment, keep ecological balance, and build a modern ecological civilization, and practically get religious believers to jointly make the earth our beautiful home. Now, I would like to share my views based on the ecological concept of Islam and the ecological practice of Chinese Muslims. First, Islam shows ecological wisdom in protecting the environment. Islam has attached great importance to environmental protection since its creation and shows rich wisdom. First, the ecological environment is the material foundation for human survival. Quran states, He has made the earth a place of settlement for you, and the sky a canopy, and sends down rain from the sky, causing fruits to grow as a provision for you. It also states that we split the earth, then we grow in it grain and grapes and grains and olive and date palms, lush gardens, fruits, and pastures as provision for you and your livestock. The classic clearly expounds the basic ecological idea of Islam. In other words, the environment in which mankind exists is the natural vehicle of its survival and is a basic material support for the sustainable development of mankind. Second, build an ecological order of harmony between man and nature. According to Islam, man and nature are an organic whole of interdependence and coexistence. The Quran states, "For all things has Allah appointed a due proportion. Human beings should get close to nature and observe the laws of nature, coexist and co-prosper with everything in nature, and keep the ecological order of harmony between man and nature. At the same time, it is forbidden to damage the ecology." The Quran states that, "Remember the graces of Allah and do not mischief on the earth." Indiscriminate logging and undue exploitation are regarded as evil acts that damage the environment. During the Muhammad era, he designated Mecca, Medina, and Taif as protected zones where it is fine to indiscriminately fell trees and kill wildlife. Third, encourage people to engage in effective ecological practices. Islam encourages Muslims to plant trees to improve the environment. As Muhammad put it, "Even if the last day has occurred, well, any one of you holding a plant in your hand should plant it into the earth." He also said that whenever a man plants a tree, Allah gives back to the grower using fruits it bears. According to Islam, environmental awareness must be translated into active practices. And this is also an important way to practice faith. Second, Chinese Muslims consciously pursue ecological conservation and green development. Under Islamic wisdom and Chinese thought on ecological civilization, Chinese Muslims pursue green development and take the initiative to promote China's ecological conservation. Chinese Muslims have built a beautiful home of harmony for everything and benefit from the green economy. First, build a beautiful China. China is a beautiful homeland for the survival and the development of the Chinese nation. Building a beautiful China is included in the National Development Plan. Chinese Muslims make conscious efforts to plant trees every year in response to the call of the state. Aizat village, a Muslim settlement in Henan province, was heavily polluted by its leather industry. Then, a village-level pollution treatment project was launched in 2006. Now it has become an ecologically sound place with lucid waters. Muslims in Xining City, Qinghai province, voluntarily plant trees in the National Unity Forest every year. They planted over 6,000 saplings of different kinds in 2017, covering an area of nearly 100 mu. Muslims in Mengyuan County planted 300 mu of trees from 2017 to 2020. Muslims in Jiuzai Township, Ningxia, has planted 500 mu of trees over 30 years, turning a barren mountain into a mountain with pines and cypresses. Such practices are common among Muslims in Inner Mongolia, Hubei, Hunan, Sichuan, Gansu, Yunnan, and other provinces. Second, develop the green economy. Bulungo in Gansu province is a village inhabited by Muslims. Here, ravines and gullies crisscrossed, and the drought was common. In February 2013, General Secretary Xi Jinping visited this place. He was deeply concerned about the harsh environment and the tough life of the Muslims. With the government support, Muslims improved the environment and developed a green economy. By 2020, spruce, Chinese pine, locust tree, salt cedar have been planted on the mountains. Nearly 1,000 mu of slope cropland have been returned to forest. Cranberry, Sichuan pepper, apricot, and other products grow abundantly. The Cliff Village has become a village of well-being and is rated as China's beautiful leisure village by the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs this year. This shows Muslims in poverty-stricken areas become rich through pursuing green development. And there are a lot of other examples, and I will not elaborate on them one by one. Third, the firm ecological mission of Chinese Muslims is to build a beautiful homeland. As the environment faces severe challenges, mankind is a community with a shared future. In this context, promoting ecological civilization and building a community of life for man and nature are the mission of Chinese Muslims. Raise awareness of ecological civilization. We should interpret the rich ecological concepts contained in the Islamic doctrines and canons in light of the modern era and publicize this through sermons so that the awareness of respecting nature, following its laws, and protecting it gains popular support and cultivate a culture of ecological conservation. Engage in daily protection practices. Guide religious believers to protect the environment. Carry out afforestation every year. Live a diligent and frugal, green, and low-carbon, culturally advanced and healthy life, and bring together a strong green synergy. We advocate that all Islamic associations and mosques organize the faithful to participate in various environmental protection activities on the World Environment Day, International Day for Biological Diversity, National Low Carbon Day, etc. Third, tell the story of ecological conservation by Chinese Muslims.
In the future, we will present a true view of a Chinese Muslim protecting the natural environment and building a beautiful home, and share a green, low carbon, and a healthy lifestyle in our international exchanges, enabling the philosophy and the practice of ecological civilization to benefit more countries and people through exchanges. And this way we'll work together to make planet Earth a beautiful ecological home. As the ancient Chinese saying puts it, heaven, earth, and I were produced together, and all things and I are one. When human beings make rational use of nature and protects it, nature's rewards are often generous. When human beings indiscriminately exploit nature, nature's punishment will also surely be merciless. The ecological wisdom of religion and the continuous ecological practice by religious believers are key resources and forces for ecological environmental protection. We need to demonstrate these precious resources, protect the ecological environment as if we are protecting our own eyes, and build a beautiful world of harmony for everything. To conclude, I wish this conference a complete success. Thank you. Thank you for listening. And now I'd like to turn it over to Chair of a Religion for Peace UK, Women of a Faith Network, Vice Chair from the Religion for Peace UK, and a Sikh representative from the Scottish Religious Leader Forum, board member of RIP, European Women of a Faith Work, Ms. Lavender Kaur Nijar. Please.
Warm greetings, sisters and brothers. It is an honor and a privilege to be asked to speak today. When you look at the Earth from space, it is one planet. There are no borders between the seas, the mountains, and the land. It is one planet on which all species should live in harmony. As the Earth's stewards and custodians, we have a responsibility to safeguard, heal, protect, and facilitate the flourishing of all life. Today, as we stand at the brink of environmental disaster, we have very few years left to avert the catastrophic consequences. The coming together of scientists and businesses around the world to find a vaccine for the COVID-19 virus was unprecedented, and the sheer human determination to find a cure is what is needed for the climate crisis. Globally, women are more vulnerable to the impacts of climate change due to their different and unequal social roles and status, and have less say in decisions about the problem. They make up 60% of the global poor. Of the 26 million currently estimated to be displaced by climate change, 20 million are women, and probably many thousands more with the devastating floods in Pakistan and other countries around the world. Climate change affects people's daily lives. About half of the population in developing countries experience increased water scarcity, linked to which results in women having to travel greater distances to collect water and fuel, which means that children, predominantly girls, are increasingly kept out of education to help with supporting the home. Women are more exposed to indoor pollutants from the use of firewood and other solid fuels used for cooking, making them more prone to lung infections. A lack of access to clean water impacts women and girls' menstrual health. Climate change is likely to affect farming, with reduced harvests. Increasing food prices affect the poorest households most acutely. Where there is global food price increase, poor households in every country suffer. Although women are less likely to be in positions of power and or decision-making roles that affect world policies on climate change, they are tackling the problem in their own way. In 2021, at COP26 in Glasgow, for the first time, women of faith leaders from Religions for Peace Global Women of Faith Network issued a joint statement signed by over 48 women signatories from around the world, calling upon governments and corporations to fulfill the common mission of protecting and nurturing the planet. Every day, billions of women around the world make decisions that influence the environment. Their roles within families means that they often act as stewards of natural and household resources. They are more likely than men to be involved in community-based projects to tackle climate change. As agents of change, women can and do ensure that tasks such as recycling are enacted and energy used efficiently. Women make up to over 50% of consumer decisions and are more likely to be sustainable consumers, encouraging lifestyle changes such as reducing meat consumption or choosing a more sustainable energy supplier. Inspirational women have been trying to protect the environment for decades. Venerable Master Shi Shengxian, a Buddhist nun and religious leader, starting her recycling movement and called for vegetarianism 30 years ago. Nobel Peace Prize winner Professor Wangari Maathai led campaigns to protect land and started a movement of mass tree planting in Kenya. Dr. Husna Ahmed from Global One has built a campaign and given practical ideas for a greener Hajj. And as members of all faith communities, we should be looking at how to make religious festivals more greener. Religions for Peace UK Women of Faith Network have launched a project, Let Earth Breathe, Plant Trees. The project will establish peace groves in the UK and encourage individuals, schools, businesses, and places of worship to plant a tree of peace. The symbolic planting of a tree leads to further discussion on the climate crisis and what can be done individually and collectively. Trees have great significance in many religions, and I'm delighted to hear from other speakers the planting of numerous trees. Let us use nature. Let it be the solution to the climate crisis. Sisters from the Global Women of Faith Network have been donating 1,000 fruit trees to schools, farms, individual families, community homes. This is a wonderful way to help with providing nourishing fruit and helping to reduce hunger, as well as capturing carbon. Women are finding solutions to help protect themselves and the planet. This year's Earthshot Prize for Clean Air, started by Prince William from the UK, was won by Charlotte Magai, the founder and CEO of Mukuru Clean Stoves. Growing up in Mukuru, one of Nairobi's largest slums, for years, Charlotte sold charcoal for fuel. The charcoal was a cause of regular respiratory infections for her and her neighbors. So she decided to find a solution and founded Mukuru Clean Stoves. Rather than burning dangerous solid fuels, Mukuru Clean Stoves use processed biomass made from charcoal, wood, and sugarcane. This burns cleaner, creating 90% less pollution than an open fire and 70% less than a traditional cook stove. They are cheaper to cost, just $10, and halving ongoing fuel costs. Today, 200,000 people in Kenya use Mukuru stoves. A female-founded business with mostly female staff and distribution agents, Mukuru is empowering women to make a living by making a difference. Research shows that women participate in decision-making at national and community levels. They are key to effective climate change solutions. They are powerful agents of change in the fight against climate change. Gender equal representation has led to policymaking with better outcomes for the environment. Despite this, the poorest women and girls continue to be excluded from processes to develop national adaptation plans and reduce countries' emissions. So I would ask all of you to advocate for policies and action to address gender-specific issues, to highlight the suffering of women caused by climate injustice, and implement strategies that act on the call from women for gender equality, listen to their voices, and help to empower them. Encourage everyone to take little steps to help protect the environment. We, the people, can be very powerful because when connected together, we can have greater impact, an impact that will protect all living beings on our planet, a legacy we need to leave behind for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nija. And now I'd like to turn it over to the chairperson of the National Center for Climate Change Strategy and International Cooperation, Mr. Xu Huaqing. Mr. Xu is a Chinese expert in climate and environmental protection. He just came back from the 2022 UN Climate Change Conference, or COP27, in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Yang. Distinguished guests, leaders of faith, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is a great pleasure to attend this video conference of the third International Seminar on Religion and Ecological Civilization. I would also like to take this opportunity to say a few words about China and climate global governance. I would like to talk about 5 things. To start with, let's take a journey back to hear the inspiring speech given by the Chinese President Xi Jinping on work together to build a community of a shared future for mankind, a speech that he delivered at the UN office in Geneva on January the 18th, 2017. President Xi pointed out there is only one planet Earth in the universe, and we, mankind, have only one homeland. Greater visions can be realized only through actions. Actions hold the key to building a community of a shared future for mankind. We should build an open and inclusive world through exchange and mutual learning. Diversity of human civilizations not only defines our world, but also drives progress of mankind. There are more than 200 countries and regions in the world, over 2,500 ethnic groups and multiple religions in our world, different histories, national conditions, ethnic groups, and customs give birth to different civilizations, and they make the world a colorful place. We should make our world clean and beautiful by pursuing green and low carbon development. Man coexists with nature, which means that any harm to nature will eventually come back to haunt man. Clean waters and green mountains are as good as mountains of gold and silver. We must maintain harmony between man and nature and pursue sustainable development. The Paris Agreement is a milestone in the history of climate governance. We must ensure this endeavor. We must make sure that this endeavor is not derailed. All parties should work together to implement the Paris Agreement. China will continue to take steps that tackle climate change and fully honor its obligations. It's fair to say these key remarks of President Xi represents China's opinion about the global climate governance and the Paris Agreement, and our effort to build a community of a shared future for all human beings. And secondly, I'd like to say a few words about China's response to climate change and the outcomes of a green and low carbon development, a strategy that is uniquely China. And let me provide you with 4 sets of statistics. First of all, carbon intensity in China decreased significantly. In 2021, per capita, from 2020 to 2021, China's CO2 emission per unit of GDP fell by 3.8%. And from 2005 to 2021, the figure reached 50.8%, exceeding the target of 40 to 45% of a reduction in 2020 compared to 2005. And also, as the previous speaker said, that we try to respond to climate change, and we try to we do everything within our capacity to honor our commitments, and that is also true in the case of China.
Second, the energy consumption structure continues to be optimized. In 2021, China's non-fossil energy consumption reached 16.6%, an increase of 9.2 percentage points compared with 2005. The proportion of coal dropped from 72.4% in 2005 to 56%, with an annual decrease of 1 percentage point. Third, unprecedented progress has been made in China's low-carbon development. In 2021, China's installed capacity of non-fossil power generation reached 1.12 billion kilowatts, accounting for 47% of the total power generation. The installed capacity of hydropower, wind power, and solar power has exceeded 300 million kilowatts, ranking first in the world for 3 years in a row. By the end of 2021, the number of new energy vehicles in China reached 7.84 million, accounting about half of the world's total. Fourth, significant progress has been made in the construction of the carbon market. On July 16, 2021, China's carbon trading market officially launched online transactions. In its first compliance cycle, 2,162 emission units in the power generation industry were included, involving more than 4.5 billion tons of carbon dioxide emissions per year, and the cumulative transaction volume reached 194 million tons. The transaction amount was 8.49 billion yuan, effectively promoting emission reduction. What I want to emphasize is China is really making a lot of progress in new energy industry. Then I would like to briefly introduce China's carbon peak and carbon neutrality 1+N policy system. Achieving carbon peak and carbon neutrality is a major strategic decision made by the Party Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping as the core. With President Xi's planning, deployment, and promoting, China's carbon peak and carbon neutrality 1+N policy system has gradually taken shape. Mainly consisting of three parts: top-level design, implementing plans for key areas and key industries, and important supporting and guaranteeing measures. Among them, the top-level design includes two documents. First, the opinion of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China and the State Council on completely, accurately, and comprehensively implementing the new development concept. And the second document is Action Plan for Carbon Peak between 2030. Then, in terms of the second part, implementing plans for key areas and key industries include 6 major areas, including urban and rural construction, transportation, agriculture, and rural areas development, as well as pollution reduction and carbon reduction, as well as implementing plans for carbon peak in 4 major industries, including iron and steel, non-ferrous metals, petrochemicals, and building materials. Then the third, important supporting and safeguarding measures include green consumption, finance, price, technology, ecosystem, and statistical accounting system, standard measurement system, professional personnel training, and national education system, etc. What I want to emphasize is the 1+N policy system is a package of policies, actions, and measures involving the economy, society, ecology, politics, culture, etc., which is the Chinese version of the European Green New Deal. China promises to achieve carbon peak before 2030 and carbon neutrality before 2060. This is a very ambitious goal with strategic intentions and also policy orientations, and it also highlights China's respect for science, and it shows that the decision making by the leaders, we can say that we have seen a lot of science progress have been made. So there are uncertainties and there are room for us to make more improvements, but we are really determined to reach carbon peak before 2030 and carbon neutrality before 2060. Fourth, China is committed to promoting a fair, reasonable, cooperative, and win-win global climate governance system. In the China implementation of new targets and new measures submitted by the government in 2021, it clearly stated that we need to coordinate and orderly promote carbon peak and carbon neutrality. We should actively adapt to climate change. At the same time, we should also strengthen the support and guarantee system in response to climate change. In terms of international cooperation, China will continue to adhere to build the community with a shared future for mankind and promotes the global transition to green, low-carbon, climate-adaptive, and sustainable development. Here, I would like to emphasize that China will continue to uphold multilateralism under the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities in global climate governance. As the biggest developing country in the world, China formally supports multilateralism in addressing climate change, and China adheres and upholds the UNFCCC and the Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Agreement. We will work together with all countries around the world, including developed and developing countries, to provide our own wisdom and to make our own contribution to global climate governance. Finally, I would also like to take this opportunity to share some of the requirements made by the 20th National Congress of the Communist Party of CPC on addressing climate change. President Xi Jinping clearly pointed out in the report that China adheres to the integrated protection and systematic governance of mountains, rivers, forests, farmland, lakes, grass, and sand. China coordinates industrial restructuring, pollution control, ecological protection, and a response to climate change to reduce emissions, to promote clean and low-carbon transformation of different industries. And China actively promotes green and low-carbon production style and lifestyles. China will actively and steadily promote carbon peak and carbon neutrality, implement the action in a planned and step-by-step manner. China will continue to improve the regulation of total energy consumption and gradually shift to the dual control system of carbon emissions and carbon emission intensity, and actively participate in the response to the National Statistical Accounting System of carbon trading system in order to actively participate in response to climate change governance. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you.
感谢徐华金先生与大家分享这个主题的最新信息。
Thank you, Professor Xu, for sharing the latest updates with us. And now, let's welcome Ms. Philippa Rowland, Chair of Religious for Peace Australia, and is a member of Asia Pacific Women of Faith Network, to give us a speech.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Ms. Chen, for sharing my slides. Australia is an ancient land. I'm deeply honoured to be here, and I'd like to begin by paying my respects to the elders, past, present, and future First Nation leaders. I'm here on Yingara land in northwestern Australia. And just by way of an interesting aside, I put this slide together for our Asia Pacific Women of Faith Network meeting on the 29th of November. And on that day, the Great Barrier Reef, they were suggesting it be listed again as endangered. But where I am now, Ningaloo Reef, is actually a hope spot in the world. So I hope our meeting today can also be a transition from acknowledging the very serious situation that climate change is upon us, and to move through with hope and courage to what we can do. Our meeting that we had was just after COP27, so we discussed loss and damage. My slides, I'm sorry, show the situation in Australia, but we heard that day from Huma Ikramullah about the devastating impacts of the floods in Pakistan. And we also heard from Reverend James Bhagwan about the situation in the Pacific. We also heard from East Nusa Tenggara, where Dr. Ira Mangalilo did a lot of work in faith-led response to Tropical Cyclone Seroja. So we are at this point of that predicted increased intensity and frequency of extreme events with this growing regional evidence and experience of wildfires, floods, cyclones, melting glaciers, volatile temperatures, and rising sea levels. Next slide. Thank you. So in response to the sense that after Hiroshima and Nagasaki affected Japan, the world set up a United Nations treaty on the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons. The world is now beginning to consider fossil fuels are as dangerous for our world as nuclear weapons. Many faith leaders, well over 100 senior faith leaders from Christian, Hindu, Muslim, Jewish, many faiths from the Pacific and Australia, signed a very strong letter to our Prime Minister Albanese, thanking him for taking action on climate, but requesting that Australia stops approving new coal and gas projects and ends subsidies for them, respects First Nations' right to protect country and sea, contributes to the Green Climate Fund, helps workers transit from what they're doing into more sustainable industries, and to participate in this fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty. Next slide, please. This appears to be the moment we're at, where faith groups look at the situation before us and see what we can do in response. I'm sorry my slide won't give acknowledgement to the actual contributions of everybody, but there was a lot of wisdom in the room when we met. And you can see the left-hand side speaks about the role of faith leaders, trusted leaders, the connection they have with their communities, the fact that places of worship can both be refuges and places for provision of care. There's a great role for our compassion in action and for our ability to share models of what we can do. That is partly how do we help each other with a rapid transition to renewables? How do we end the influence of fossil fuel lobbies? And then the positive, proactive, hope-filled actions of reforestation to repair lungs and carbon sinks of our planet, greening our cities into healthy climate-positive ecosystems. So Professor Lillian Sisson called for green cities, and moderator Des Carl reminded us of the importance of blue cities, ones that adequately manage water. So we hope we can become led by faith and informed by the science, respecting the integral ecology, as was brought to us by Professor Dr. Lin Ma Hong and also our Korean representative, Christine Liu from Fokolari movement in Korea, to care for nature as a humble servant, in the words of Dipali Bano from India. Next slide. So after the presentations we had some discussion groups, and I put here the most highlight top issues that came out from our three rapporteurs. Elga Sarapong from Indonesia brought out that we need to have common action to build awareness across our leaders and communities. We need to uptick our information exchange by writing in essays and sharing the rich experience we have in all our different countries. Sufatman Nyanyaset from Thailand, very key, sustainability. How do we develop systematic engagement and promotion? She suggests we need better networking, how to learn and share, and develop city projects, both green and blue. Heidi Fajardo from the Philippines, strong focus on education, where and how to focus our energy as religious people. Understand the market forces influence the decisions being made, and faith leaders can set an example in our own places of worship with solar, etc. Next slide. So in developing our vision for a safe climate future together, The concept is that we can have different faiths but common actions, and different countries' collective action. But each country will be working to its own strengths and helping its neighbours. Each faith community can encourage their faith with demonstration models for what is meaningful action, what are good choices for reducing emissions. And we believe that there's an opportunity to show moral courage and strategic action for the sake of future generations. We had a moment of hope in South Australia, where I live, and we reached 100% solar and 100% wind in 1 week. So we're beginning to demonstrate it's possible. Next slide, please. So this is a slide I used at an event I held in Parliament House in Canberra. It was pulled together from that very large report from the International Panel on Climate Change. How do we try and keep the world's temperature under 1.5 degrees? Professor Mark Howden simply came up, each half degree matters, each year matters, each choice matters. Last slide, please. So it is really just that sense that if we can work together and hold up the hope of what we collectively can achieve, we can take inspiration. It's 50 years since the Club of Rome, and now there is a new project called Earth for All, and I'm delighted and grateful for the support of CCRP and Religions for Peace International to bring together the efforts from around the world and from around our faith communities. Thank you for having me.
Thank you
very much, Ms. Rowland, for sharing your view as a representative from Women Committee of ACP on Climate Change. And now I'd like to hand it over to Anna Grace Kaisel, Team Leader of Peace, Livelihood and Governance at Inner Religious Council of Uganda. Ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. It is my pleasure to be part of this very significant conversation. Comrades in the struggle of reawakening our global family towards their responsibilities towards creation, I want to offer some reflections on the role of faith communities in environmental protection. We need to recognize the unsettling realities. The earth is in danger with human activity, and unless drastic changes are made, it will be difficult to sustain life on Earth. The United Nations, as we know, has declared a triple planetary crisis of climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution, and called for urgent action from all stakeholders. We are aware that governments are paying lip service to environmental protection. Societal needs are more conspicuous in our planning and management, and policymakers seem to be short-sighted in planning for ecological needs which support the societal needs. We need to recognize that climate change and biodiversity losses are global existential threats, yet being acted upon with selfish national interests by the political leadership, as we have observed in the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change and the UN Convention on Biodiversity Processes. Worrying is that countries least responsible for change of climate continue to experience its devastating impacts, as we recently witnessed in Pakistan. So the question is, these are clear concerns before us. These are clear issues. These are clear challenges before us. Why should we be concerned? As people of faith, men and women, we were created in the image of God and given a privileged place among our creatures and commanded to exercise stewardship over the earth. That's what we read in Genesis chapter 1, verses 26, and also Psalm 8, verse 5. We are therefore morally accountable to God in the way we relate with and treat creation. As faith communities, we have assets that can reverse the effects of environmental degradation, the moral authority, and the influence to shape values and norms. We have mobilizing capacity and an ethical transforming message. But we also have a tradition of mobilizing for societal survival and changes. We did contribute significantly to the Egyptian and the Indian civilizations. We have been known to sustain liberation movements. We're active in dealing with slave trade, among others. So all these are assets that are at our hands, which we can use and enhance to be able to make a difference or to cause a reversal in the current worrying trends. The question now is, how do we translate these concerns into action as faith communities? I have identified 3 critical areas in which we can do this. 1, communicating, linking, formulating, and adapting. First, we can raise awareness on the link between the spiritual and the natural, the physical realities of life forms. Not all life is physical. There is the soul and the spirit, which science cannot explain. We need to explain the principles of justice and our responsibilities to live in harmony with nature. All life forms are sacred, be it human, vegetation, land or soil, fish, extra. So any abuse of any of these elements upsets the equilibrium. There's a need to provide a sound theoretical basis regarding the our stewardship of the environment. We are watch people. We are watching over creation. That is our calling. So as per that mandate, we have dominion. This power is not to destroy, but to nurture. So we need to challenge this utilitarian approach to nature. It is important that we build a worldview that is grounded on interconnectedness, interdependence, and relationship between humans and nature. We need to empower people with knowledge, values, and attitudes that will enable them to embrace environmental stewardship as a priority. We need to help people understand the intrinsic nature, the intrinsic value of nature. Linking. It is important that we link science and faith, because as we all know, all matters of human existence have both a scientific and moral dimension. So faith leaders and organizations should be key stakeholders in environmental stewardship and highlight the moral imperative in environmental conservation and restoration. It is important that we link various initiatives on ecological protection. There are so many initiatives in different countries at different levels. It is important that we draw and share experiences, because all these can help us in advocating and influencing policy. We need to link grassroots experiences and perspectives and the needs with the high-level policy processes. It is important that we advocate for policies that will support green development. Theoretical frameworks that underpin the human responsibility to safeguard integrity of creation. It is also our responsibility to adapt sustainable production and consumption systems. We need to make our commitment visible in the choices that we make in our common life as faith communities. We need to translate our aspirations of the quality of life that we desire through our daily choices that enhance the integrity of creation. Thank you very much for listening.
谢谢你的发言。下面
Thank you very much. And now I'd like to turn it over to the Vice President of CCRP and Honorary President of Bishops' Conference of Catholic Church in China, Mr. Ma Yingling, please. Honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Today, I am going to talk about how do we work together for a shared, beautiful homeland of a harmonious coexistence. First of all, we would like to call on everybody to work together to protect the planet Earth, because the planet Earth is a beautiful home on which human beings live together. Catholicism believes that all things in the world were created by God, and human beings, as the highest level creation, were blessed to rule over all others and have a dominion over nature. God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it, rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky and over every living creature that moves on the ground." At first, in the paradise created by God, human beings enjoyed a very harmonious relationship with nature, and the earth provided them with all the necessary resources for life. And they in turn cared for the earth and nature with love. But now human beings are destroying this earth, posing unprecedented challenges to the harmonious relationship. Man-made air pollution in our living environment has incurred more diseases, the deteriorating water environment, and the widely declining quality of drinking water due to water pollution have posed threats to human health, and this has led to premature birth or deformed fetus. And in some places, excessive grazing has put too much burden on the grassland, making the damage beyond repair. And in some other areas, there's serious deforestation. And the deforestation has become so severe that it has gone beyond the carrying capacity of the environment, leading to desertification and climate deterioration. And climate change has also seriously affected various aspects of water resources, food production, ecosystems, and human health. For instance, the rising temperature and also the rising sea levels. We see more frequent extreme weather events. All of these have proven to be a threat to our survival, to our development. And if a greenhouse gas emission is not put under control, climate change will exacerbate and will threat our future. Human beings are now suffering as a result of our own doings, and we urgently need to awaken this environmental consciousness among all human beings. Since the 1970s, countries around the world have begun to pay attention to the environment. The UN held the first ever conference on the human environment in Stockholm, during which the famous Declaration on the Human Environment was discussed and then adopted, thus opening the new chapter to a global joint effort to protect the environment. The declaration calls on the government and the peoples of all countries to work together to maintain and improve human environment for the benefit of all peoples, for the present and the future generations. According to the declaration, the protection and improvement of a human environment is an issue that affects the well-being of the peoples and economic development. It is also an urgent and the declaration also states that the natural resources of the earth, including air, water, land, animals, plants, flora and fauna, and especially a lot of the specimens of the natural ecosystem must be safeguarded for the benefit of the present and future generations. The Catholic Church also supports the dialogue of faith and science and among sciences fields on the way. For instance, it reminds people to solve increasingly serious ecological problems with a persistent, self-restraint, and a generous attitude. The Church hopes that under the light of the faith, relationship will hence be repaired between man and God and among different people.
The ecological outlook and the thought of harmonious coexistence in Chinese culture. Chinese traditional philosophy emphasizes the harmony between human and nature, which affirms that the two are interlinked in essence and how human behavior should follow the laws of nature to achieve their harmony and unity. This theory is similar to the ecological outlook of Catholicism. Both religious believers and non-believers should respect and care for nature, which is a common responsibility and obligation for mankind. Human beings will make the world better by being kind to nature and will be punished for their maltreatment of nature. Catholicism emphasizes that God is the creator of the world, while man only enjoys a limited right of administration over nature. The exercise which must be conformed to the will and the intention of God when he created the world. After completing the creation, God never left the world. Rather, the Holy Trinity has been continuing in its salvation project. In God's plan of love, and people show the glory of God together with others on the earth. As the depletion of nature by minds of science and technology exacerbated the ecological crisis, the public awareness gradually gets weakened. This understanding also prompts the theological community to think about the relationship between human beings and the environment. Against this background, the public begins to advocate ecological civilization and being kind to nature. Ecological civilization is a form of human civilization based upon respecting and caring for nature in pursuit of harmonious coexistence among different people, between humanity and nature, and between man and society. It emphasizes humans' self-consciousness and self-discipline and stresses the interdependence, mutual promotion, coexistence, and integration between humans and natural environment. It not only pursues harmony between human beings and ecology, but also the harmony among different people, with the latter serving the premise of the former. According to Catholic social teaching, environment protection is a challenge for all mankind, which entails a common and universal responsibility. The natural environment will be inherited by the whole human beings as public welfare, for which everyone has a responsibility to manage nature. Pope Francis pointed out that in addition to recovering a sound political life that is not subject to the dialectics of finance, we must put human dignity back at the front and center, and on the pillar build the alternative social structures we need. Third, together for a beautiful home of harmonious coexistence. Chinese traditional culture advocates that all men are brothers. Since ancient times, China has been advocating not only loving our families and neighbors, but also loving all people and treating all things kindly. This is consistent with the Catholic idea of universal love and also nourishes the ecological theory in China. In recent years, the Chinese government has stepped up its efforts in environmental governance with fruitful results in desertification control and water ecology. President Xi Jinping has repeatedly stressed that lucid waters and lush mountains are invaluable assets. In the report to the 20th National Congress of the Communist Party of China, President Xi pointed out that we have acted on the idea that lucid waters and lush mountains are invaluable assets. We have persisted with a holistic and systematic approach to conserving and improving mountain, water, forest, farmland, grassland, and desert ecosystems, and we have ensured stronger ecological conservation and environmental protection across the board in all religions and all times. China's ecological conservation system have been improved, the critical battle against pollution have been advanced, and the solid progress has been made. These essential requirements of China's modernization are as follows: pursuing high-quality development, enriching the people's cultural lives, achieving common prosperity for all, promoting harmony between humanity and nature, building a human society with a shared future, and creating a form of human achievement. Nature provides the basic conditions for human survival and development. Respecting, adapting to, and protecting nature is essential for building China into a modern socialist country in all aspects. We must uphold and act on the principle that lucid waters and lucid mountains are invaluable assets, and remember to maintain harmony between human and nature. Global joint efforts are essential to protecting Earth. According to statistics, in 2021, China produced 80% of the world's solar panels and 60% of the world's newly added generation capacity for solar panel. China's newly added generation capacity for hydropower and offshore wind power both accounted for 80% of the world total. China produced 70% of the world power batteries and owned half of the world electric vehicles. As shown above, China has achieved unprecedented progress in environmental governance and has gradually taken the lead in green technology and environmental protection measures in the world. However, for a long time, so little progress has been made in resolving the issues of adaptation, capital, technology, and capacity building that are of the greatest concerns to developing countries. Moreover, the commitment made by developed countries to provide $100 billion annually in climate fund to support developing countries has not yet fulfilled. Here, I hope that religious communities will continue to pay attention to ecological and environmental protection and actively respond to the spirit of the United Nations documents like the Declaration on Human Environment and the UNFCCC. It's hoped that developed countries will effectively assume their responsibilities, increasing funding support for developing countries, and propose a roadmap for doubling our efforts. Now, let's join hands to get rid of political prejudice and actively participate in pollution control, ecological protection, climate change mitigation, and low-carbon development. Let's work together to protect the Earth so as to build a harmonious and beautiful common homeland. Thank you. Thank you for your wonderful speech, Bishop Ma. Now, let's welcome Dr. Saraswati, President of Diwan Shatik Foundation, Secretary General of Global Interfaith Welsh Alliance, and Co-President of RFP International, to give us a speech.
It's such a beautiful blessing and a beautiful joy to be together with all of you here. Religion, at its core, is meant to connect us to the divine by any name, any form, whatever that means to us, to connect us to our highest, truest self, to connect us to our communities, to connect us to each other, to connect us to this beautiful, beautiful planet, and to connect us to a system of thought that brings our values and our ethics and our morals into our day-to-day life and gives us a way of understanding our life and moving through the world. But tragically, too frequently, that ideal of connection is becoming a reality of disconnection, polarization, selfishness, discrimination. And that disconnection and polarization all too frequently leads to violence and harm. But division is not truth. The truth is oneness. In the Hindu tradition, we are taught Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And that means the entire world is one family. So many people too many people across the world see the world these days as a bazaar, a marketplace. But we are taught that the world is not a bazaar, not a marketplace, but it's a parivar, a family. In a marketplace, there's competition. Your gain is my loss, and vice versa. But in a family, there's sharing, there's caring, there's giving to each other. Your gain is my gain. Your loss is my loss. It's critical for us to realize our interconnection and interlinking. We may be separate humans, but together we form one humanity. In the same way that the different parts of the body function separately, but they form one body. And in order for the body to be healthy, all of the individual parts have to be healthy. You couldn't say, well, I'm healthy except for my liver, or except for my kidney, or except for my heart. In the same way as one humanity, we cannot isolate ourselves from any other part of humanity. And also, we can't isolate ourselves from Mother Earth, who truly is the mother of this humanity. As we work together across civilizations, across communities, we realize that the goal is not to remove differences or remove diversity. We love diversity, but to realize that although different flowers of different species with different colors and different fragrances blossom in one garden, in the same way, each of us, our different religions, our different traditions, are blossoming in different fragrances, different ways, but from the same soil. And we all need that soil to be healthy, to be strong, so that all of our individual fragrant flowers may blossom and flower in their own way. We know across the world that about 4 out of 5 people, even a little more than that, subscribe to and align with a faith tradition. Now, what that means is that it gives our faith leaders, our faith organizations, a power of buy-in and consensus that's unparalleled by any other group that I've ever heard of in history, whether it's followers of a sports team or fans of a rock band. There's nothing else in our world that garners that level of consensus. And so what that means is that as leaders of faith and communities of faith, we have an incredible power, but also an incredible responsibility. And we really must show up as leaders of faith to truly guide our followers, our communities, and therefore the world, not only to the attainment of what we call moksha, or liberation after death, or what other traditions speak about as heaven or nirvana. Not only to guide people toward that, but actually to guide them toward creating heaven right here on earth, right here, right now, for all of us and for all of our sisters and brothers of every race, every religion, and every species. In the Hindu tradition, we consider the 5 elements: water, fire, earth, air, ether, as sacred. They are what we offer to God when we perform our worship ceremonies. You'll always see the offerings of all of the different elements in any worship ceremony to remind us the creation, the elements, the water, the soil, the air, these are sacred. These are what we give to God. There's a beautiful mantra in the Bhagavad Gita in which Krishna, the embodiment of God, says, whatever the devotee offers me, whether it's a leaf, a flower, a piece of fruit, or water, whatever the devotee offers me with love, I accept it with love. And I love that particular mantra, not just because it shows the grace of God in acceptance, but because out of the 4 things chosen, they're all natural elements. Doesn't say whoever offers me gold or diamonds or a mansion or a car. It says a leaf, flowers, fruit, water. Meaning these are the things which we offer to God. And so we must keep them clean and sacred. You would not offer water from a sewer to the divine. You wouldn't offer polluted air to the divine. Now, our basic human psychology teaches us that we contract into camps of us versus them in times of fear and stress. And one of the greatest causes of stress in our world is lack of resources. But the more we contract in fear, the more the lines between us and them get thicker and thicker. And therefore, the more likely we are to engage in violence and harm against the other. And what that means is that as our resources become scarce, as our water becomes, as the United Nations says, climate change is really about water. Whether it's lack of water, our drying rivers, whether it's rising ocean levels, whether it's pollutants in our water, that as we are suffering from and will suffer even more from lack of water, the violence, the othering is just going to get worse and worse and worse. And that's something that's going to draw us away, tragically, from our sacred awareness of our oneness. The United Nations estimates that by 2040, the world is only going to have about half the drinking water it needs, that we could have up to hundreds of millions of water refugees. And what that means is not only are people going to suffer and die due literally to the lack of water, but people are going to be killing each other due to the lack of water. We're seeing this tragically already in India, as cities in India run out of water and people are dying in fights when water tankers arrive with too little water, too late, and those waiting in line with buckets and pots to fill up with water end up quite literally killing each other, leaving behind widows and orphans who not only still don't have water, but now don't have a father or a husband or a brother. That's why our Global Interfaith WASH Alliance was founded, to bring the heads of the different religions together, and therefore to bring the religious communities together to actually work for a water-safe world. We've seen personally, traveling around the world, whether it's to Iceland, whether it's to Alaska, whether it's to the Himalayan glaciers, what's happening with the water in our world. And so we bring together the different leaders to protect our water, to keep it clean, to end open defecation, to end pollution, to plant trees that are abating climate change, that are bringing us back water, and to teach water conservation, water awareness, water education in our schools, in our colleges, in our communities. Because you all know, as religious leaders, not only do we have our religious congregations, but so many of us also have educational institutes that we run and programs that we run for children. So as we unite leaders of different faiths together with a common enemy, not only are we having this beautiful success with regard to protection of water, but we're also creating friendships and relationships across borders and across boundaries that help minimize and dissipate conflict when conflict arises. There's so much to share, but time is really short. So I will end here with just one concluding point, which is that yesterday was World Solidarity Day. It was the day when we came together to remember that we are one. But solidarity is not just coming together in a theoretical awareness of our oneness. It's actually coming together with a common goal and with a common purpose. And yesterday, as we celebrated with about 1,200 children from this beautiful Himalayan region, teaching them, working with them around water, around pollution, around climate change, around waste, around all of the areas that they, in their lives, can actually change and do to help protect and preserve the planet. It was such a beautiful moment. And as we all gather together today, I share with you my joy from being with all the children yesterday, and therefore my renewed optimism in the power of what we can do together, hand in hand, heart in heart, as sisters and brothers of this one sacred earth. Thank you so much for the beautiful opportunity to be together with you all today.
Thank you very much, Ms. Saraswati. The next speaker is supposed to be Reverend Xu Xiaohong, Vice President of CCRP and President of National Committee of TSPM, but unfortunately he is not able to join today due to personal reasons. Instead, Reverend Gu Mengfei, Deputy Secretary General of CCRP and the Secretary General of the same organization, will take his place. Dear leaders, dear guests, good afternoon. And now I would like to read the written speech from Mr. Xu Xiaohong, Vice President of CCRP and President of the National Committee of TSPM. And the topic is building a beautiful China and a community with shared future for mankind. Humanity is an integral part of nature and must seek harmonious coexistence with nature. This is an old Chinese saying which proves that the pursuit of harmony between man and nature is the core of China's ancient outlook. And on October the 16th, 2022, General Secretary Xi Jinping pointed out in the report of the 20th Party Congress that the Chinese modernization is the modernization of a harmony between man and nature. Humanity and nature make up a community of life. If we extract from nature without limit or inflict damage on it, we are bound to face its retaliation. China is committed to sustainable development and to the principle of prioritizing resource conservation and environmental protection and letting nature restore itself. We will protect nature and environment as we do our own lives. We will continue to pursue a model of a sound development featuring improved production, higher living standards, and a healthy coexistence to ensure the sustainable development of the Chinese nation. Christianity always attaches importance to ecological civilization and environmental harmony. The Bible contains rich information on ecological civilization, advocating that it is the common responsibility of mankind to maintain the harmonious existence, virtuous cycles all around the development and the sustainable prosperity between man and nature. And the provision of the sabbatical of the Bible on the sabbatical year enabled the land to recover its fertility and, more importantly, restore its ecology by prohibiting people from over-exploiting nature out of greed. The gospel of Jesus Christ encourages harmony and good relations between man and God, among different people, and between humanity and nature. It is natural for Christianity to cherish and protect God's creation and actively participate in environmental protection. Our fellow Christian pastors in China have been making efforts to enhance ecological literacy among pastors and believers. They try to explore and sort out the ideas of ecological ethics in Bible to strengthen the building of ecological thoughts. In 2019, under the guidance of the National Committee of the TSPM and the China Christian Council, the publicity group adapting Christianity to the Chinese context carried out a series of Bible teaching-based activities around the theme of cherishing God's creation and building a better life together. They expanded not only on the relationship between God's creation and a good life, but also the attitude, words, and the deeds that are required to cherish and protect a wonderful world created by the Heavenly Father. They also explained how to treat the environmental well so as to maintain ecological order in daily life. What's more, the editorial department of Tianfeng, the magazine of the Protestant Church in China, collated a book, Green Christian, in response to the call of the times. The book aims at awakening the sense of a social responsibility of contemporary Christians. Besides the above efforts, Chinese Christians also pursue ecological civilization featuring harmonious coexistence through practice in social services. In 2012, the National Religion Affairs Administration, along with other competent authorities, formulated the opinion on encouraging and regulating religious circles' participation in non-profit charitable activities. In the document, environmental protection is listed as a key non-profit activities to be supported. Regarding the construction of eco-civilization as an important part of social services, the Chinese Christian community has been making great efforts to popularize environmental protection knowledge among pastors and masses of believers. They are guided not only to foster the awareness of ecological civilization, but also to practice it through in their daily lives. I'm talking about pursuing a low carbon kind of life, protecting the forest, improve the environment, to protect the animals, and also participate in garbage sorting, thereby making their share of contribution to our beautiful country. The Social Service Department of the TSPM and the China Christian Council organized 2 sessions to discuss and learn the ecological environmental protection policies in China, and to share knowledge on environmental protection with the aim of spreading green ideas and contributing to how to green the nation. For instance, in 2017, a project of a well drilling was carried out in Xiaozhuang village and also Wulonggong Township in Hubei province. And then in 2017, there was a project to build a drainage ditches and sewage treatment in Shandong Autonomous County. And also in 2018, there was a project of a drinking water purification. And then in 2020, the SPM and China Christian Council reported a project of a drinking water in 3 Gorge ethnic villages.
Chinese Christian charitable organizations have also been carrying forward international exchanges in environmental protection. For example, the MIT Foundation, initiated by older generation leaders like Ding Guangxun and Han Wenzhao, has been cooperating with the Church of Norway to advocate the biogas project in Northwest China, which has been identified as an important pilot project for clean energy in countryside. In 2010, the foundation built 212 biogas digesters of 10 cubic meters in 3 regions of Madagascar in cooperation with local partners. At the same time, efforts were made to provide women with training on health knowledge and skills, which not only enhanced the friendship between the 2 peoples, but also launched the concept of green and low carbon development in the public mind. Another example is Brother Chen Suping of Shenzhen Church. As a representative of private entrepreneurs, he participated in the UN Climate Conference for several times to call for a low-carbon and environmentally friendly way of film production, delivering the voice of Chinese folks in tackling climate change to the world. Moreover, he held several sessions of Handle Climate Change Film Festival in Shenzhen, which could be counted as the first green film festival in response to climate change. And it was also included as an example of the broad social participation in the white paper of 2017 China Policies and Actions for Addressing Climate Change issued by the National Development and Reform Commission in October 2017. What's more, Young Men's Christian Association YMCA and church followers in Xi'an have also been planting trees in northern Shanxi for more than 10 years, and at the same time have been promoting the participation of YMCA volunteers from Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan, and other places to change the Mosul Desert into an oasis. Dear colleagues, Chinese Christianity is ready to join hands with you in the path forward for pursuing the harmonious coexistence of humanity and nature, a beautiful ecological civilization, and a community with a shared future for mankind. In the new era, we should apply a new philosophy of innovative, coordinated, green, open, and shared development while pursuing high-quality economic development. As Mr. Fei Xiaotong once said, every form of beauty has its uniqueness. Precious is to appreciate other forms of beauty with openness. Thank you. Thank you for sharing the ideas from our Christian community. Now let's welcome Mr. Alias, Secretary General, Religions for Peace, Latin America and Caribbean, to give us a speech.
Morning from Lima, Peru. It's a pleasure to be with us. Thank you very much to the Chinese Committee of Religion for Peace and Religion for Peace International for this invitation. Especially thank you very much to Mr. Lacan. We remember the visit of the delegation of the committee of the Chinese Committee of Religion for Peace and Peace to Peru. It's wonderful the opportunity to share our common concern about the fight against climate change and others concerns about environment around the world. In the region of Latin America and the Caribbean, the most important program that Religions for Peace developed is the IRA, the Interfaith Rainforest Initiative. And this initiative take more importance after the pandemic of the COVID-19, because we look at the connection between the rainforest and the health, and we looked at the health, to improve the health, we need also to keep a safe environment. The organizer asked me to talk today about the advocacy work that Religion for Peace in the region made, especially our flagship program, the IRA, the Interfaith Rainforest Initiative. And I will bring you some examples of our national chapters of the IRA, of the Interfaith Rainforest Initiative in the 3 countries of the Amazon, how they are working to advocate, to protect the forest and the human rights of the indigenous people living in the Amazon. First example that I will bring to your attention is the example from Brazil. Brazil held this year national elections, and IRA Brazil issued a powerful open letter to the candidates calling to protect the Amazon and the indigenous people. The letter was sent to all 11 candidates to the president, for the candidate, and President-elect Lula responded and committed himself to the proposal presented. Other example of advocacy in Brazil was the major mobilization around the Amazon Day, because we need also not only advocate at the public level, with the government official, we need also to mobilize the more strong the religious leaders to have commitment to keep the rainforest. Other country that IRA is working in Latin America, it's Colombia. And IRA Colombia is very, very active in the advocacy, not only with the executive authority, also at the level of the Congress, the National Congress. And they organized events to bring a proposal to the National Development Plan, and also they negotiate with different political sectors of the Congress, of the legislative branch, to put forward initiative on behalf to keep the Amazon. Also, they joined other organizations and the last Climate Week in New York to raise the voice of the faith communities to fight against climate change. In the example of Peru, this year was an year of regional and local election. And it was an opportunity also to have electoral dialogue to advance the protection of the Amazon and the forest defenders, that they are the indigenous people, on the agenda of the candidate for office. Also, IRA Peru raised their voice, also sometimes to bring the attention of the government about lacks of authority of the government to address the critical situation in the Amazon. Example, they issued a statement about the role of the armed force in the fight against illegal activities in the Amazon, especially because one of the reasons of the deforestation is linked also to the drugs the illegal drugs. It's very important the role of the security force to continue to fight against these illegal activities. And to end, because I understand that we are very, very close to end this event today. IRA Peru also, they have they build a special parliamentary group for the Amazon, and this group called the government to determine concrete actions to remediate the damage caused by oil spills in the Amazon. And also they are in permanent contact with the Ministry of Environment and its vice minister to bring the concern from the faith communities in Peru about the situation in the Amazon. Again, thank you very much for the invitation, and a special greeting to Mr. Lacan, the Secretary General of the Chinese Committee of Religion on Peace, and to Ms. Deepika Singh, the Associate Secretary General at Religion for Peace International. Thank you very much again for this invitation.
Thank you for your wonderful speech. And from your speech, we have got the update from South America and the Caribbean. And now let's move to Q&A session. If you have questions, please raise your hand. Or is it because that time is constrained? I haven't seen anyone raising the hand. If there is no one raising the hand, I will proceed.
There is Mr. Jordan, Richard Jordan.
Thank you. May I just ask a brief question, Chairman? Richard Jordan, in Tampa, Florida, Dean of UN NGOs. The Secretary General of the United Nations on Monday announced that he would call a climate summit in the margins of High Level Week in September. Will the Chinese committee perhaps consider sending some message to the Secretary General of encouragement to put the political pressure on countries and private sector to maintain 1.5 degrees? Thank you.
请徐教授回答这个问题吧。再没有人发言了吧
？Anyone else? I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Xu for an answer in response to the question from Richard. Sorry, I didn't really hear it quite clearly because I think my impression is at COP27, our activity is to kickstart the roundtable discussion for the implementation of resolution number 1 reached at COP27. But if this UN Secretary General puts together a meeting, usually during the UN General Assembly, which is in September the next year, if there is a meeting, then the Chinese leaders the top officials from the Chinese government will participate in that summit. What I would like to emphasize is that Chinese targets to reach carbon peaking and carbon neutrality are very ambitious and are very well defined. And our focus now is for everybody to demonstrate solidarity, to work together for the implementation of the Paris Agreement and the INDC proposed by each individual countries in the medium and the longer term. So China will continue to urge advanced economies to further raise their targets and, more importantly, the implementation of the targets. China will continue to urge advanced economies to fulfill their commitments that have been mentioned. For instance, the 110 billion US dollars that has already been pledged. Of course, China is a responsible major country. China will definitely honor our own commitments and continue to accelerate our efforts to transition towards a better future, greener future. And in the meantime, we will continue to provide our support to developing countries in their green energy transition to help them work together under the framework of South-South cooperation. Essentially, we would like to continue to help developing countries to build up their capacity in response to climate change. Whether there's going to be new commitments or new announcements, I can't really tell you for sure at this particular point, but our emphasis here is what we do to demonstrate a solidarity in the spirit of cooperation and partnership in order to honor our commitments 100%. So basically, this is what I would like to say in response to your question. Thank you very much, Mr. Xu, for that answer. Anyone else who would like to offer some comments? Seems no. Anyone? Any expert? No?
Yes, you have Mr. Susan.
Miss Susan, you would like to say a few words. Okay, please, Susan.
Thank you. It's wonderful to see China running, Religions for Peace China running this tonight. It's wonderful to have all the speakers. My question is about the Paris Peace Agreement, the Paris Agreement, climate change and businesses. How are we as religious communities? Business can do a lot in positive ways, and we're talking about recycling rubbish, looking at water. These are some things, but what do religious leaders feel about our role with getting businesses to become more green? This has more impact than much of what we're doing individually. But we have to do that as well.
I would defer to others, but perhaps in the interest of time, I'll share briefly. Sue, I believe the urgency of the climate situation means that we need to build new alliances between governments, communities, and business. It needs to be at least three-way coordination to get the most rapid action on climate change. So my sense is that if we can look at forming some new strategic alliances between people of faith and working within what governments and business are already in dialogue about what work needs to be done to try and keep the world's climate below 1.5 degrees Celsius.
Thank you very much. Mr. Xu, would you like to say a few words in response? Okay. I think, Ms. Susan, you have raised a very good question. It's fair to say that China has always been committed to pushing companies to embark on the road of a sustainable development towards a greener future. We've got incentive mechanism in place already. Broadly speaking, it is specifically defined, articulated by the Chinese government that the state-owned enterprises under the leadership of the central government need to develop their own plans for their carbon emission to peak. This has to be a clear defined, and also the businesses are encouraged to participate in the market of a carbon trading. In fact, now businesses in the power sector have already been included in the carbon trading mechanism because now carbon has already become a very important asset for businesses in that sector. And thirdly, the Chinese government makes it very clear that companies that are publicly listed or companies that are very important must take their social responsibility by disclosing information pertaining to their performance on emission reduction. And also, Chinese government is also working very hard to encourage SMEs, small and medium-sized businesses, to participate in projects of a carbon reduction and benefit from it. So this is from the perspective of a participation of the businesses. With regard to what you said, Ms. Roland, the need to build a three-party alliance between the community, the government, and also the businesses. Essentially, for me, this is a mechanism of governance, of a social governance, and I think that is also very important. And I think the social organizations have a very important role to play. Because I've been listening to your presentation and I found it very inspiring, because I do believe it can be very powerful if we find a way to translate our beliefs, our teaching into actions from the people of a faith. Because I think that would be very instrumental in engaging the general public to take actions as well. Whatever the format is, be it an alliance or other mechanism, we can talk about the format, but I do look forward to leaders of faith taking their roles, playing their roles, especially in China, to advance the creation of such a mechanism of governance, because I do believe you can play a bigger role. I think Ms. Saraswati, you have a few words to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to that question about connecting with businesses and inspiring them, and to say that as faith leaders, there's a really great power there, because business leaders in general tend also to be followers of faith. If we're looking at, 84% of the global population subscribing to a faith, then it's a very good chance that your business leaders are also part of that 84%, which means that as faith leaders, we have an opportunity not just to speak sort of to the masses en masse, but actually to impact very directly different companies. And I'll give you just one personal example, very, very recent example from yesterday, is one of the companies that we partner with and have partnered with for many years in issues of sanitation and hygiene is a very large multinational company that produces most of the soaps and antibacterial cleansing products that are used in India and across much of the world. And yet, as we know, a lot of these products are not very good for the environment. They're antibacterial, they're great for sanitation and hygiene, but when they go down the drain, they bring synthetic chemicals into our soil and into our water. And so one of the big leaders of that company was with us yesterday at our World Solidarity event. And while we publicly celebrated the partnership and the great work they're doing, we also encouraged them privately as well as quite publicly to shift their focus from synthetic chemical-based soaps, detergents, antibacterial products to eco-friendly, sustainable green products. And this leader assured everyone that they would. So that's just one super recent personal example of the way that the faith community can impact business, is through their leaders, getting them to change how they think about things that then they take back into the office and they bring in brand new ways of working and moving forward. So I think it's great to do it on a kind of global, systemic level. But it's also really powerful to be able to do it on just individual levels. And I mention this because I appeal to, all of the faith leaders who are joining me here today, as well as those watching this or those who will see this at other times, which is to recognize that power of the influence over people who are business leaders to actually shift their way of doing business into ways that are sustainable and eco-friendly.
Mr. Zhang Gaocheng, would you like to say a few words?
Excuse me, may I share my thoughts? May I share my thoughts, please?
先让这位先生先发言吧。他想
And Mr. Zhang says, and also Mr. Yang would like for Mr. Zhang to say a few words before he moves on to you. Okay. Sir.
say 这样子吧，他这个问题我简单回答一下。
I'll be very brief.
Oh, well, namaste and good afternoon from Nepal. I'm very happy to be among the peace leaders from different countries. Actually, I can see two level of factors enhancing peace or determining peace: higher level factors and basic level factors. When you talk of climate, environment, and other factors, these are higher level factors. But actually, as Nepal is a very poor country, I feel the other basic factors, having adverse effects on peace, on harmony and ecological environment. Just for example, religion and caste-based discrimination, poverty, these are the major factors that people are suffering and they are not having peace. So our faith-based leaders and global initiatives need to pay attention toward these basic factors as well. Because if we cannot address the basic factors for peace, and possibly we may not be able to enhance sustaining peace in the world and ecological world as we have discussed so far. Anyway, thank you for this opportunity, and it's really very grand discourse going on, and love it. Thank you all. Hare Krishna.
请张会长回答。
我觉得这个问题，我想用。
Well, for this question, well, I would like to address this question from a Taoism. You see, around the world, we have seen that the increasing ambition in terms of material gains all around the world. And because of this, we have seen climate change, and also we have seen damages down to environment. We like to see the carbon emissions reduction because we believe that emission reduction is very important for us. So in order to address all of this, the tourism has told us that we should have inner peace so that we will have the ability to improve the environment. And tourism has also told us actually human and nature are one. So that means actually we are the whole community and we are one together. So since we put this in our mind, we will know that excessive economic development will be ruled out, and the damages done by these excessive actions will be improved. And we have seen that a lot of several of the representatives here have shared their insights, have shared their personal experiences, and also have shared their advice. And I think it's very enlightening and very useful. And really, I really appreciate their comments. So we really think that to address climate change, we need to do from ourselves, that we need to do the bit by ourselves. We need to reduce our desires. We need to reduce the desires of materials, of economic development, and then we believe that nature will be improved. The environment will be improved because tourism says that we shouldn't have a lot of intervening factors in our day-to-day life. We should maintain our inner peace. Thank you. Thank you. And this is the end of the Q&A section due to the time constraints. And now I will make the closing remarks. The third international seminar on religions and ecological civilization has come to a successful end. Despite a tight schedule, we have managed to have an in-depth discussion with participants from many countries. On global governance of climate change, we followed the latest development of the 2022 United Nations Climate Change Conference, and we explored the role of religion in protecting the environment. This time, for the first time, that the meeting is organized by CCRP and RFP International together. Apart from old friends from Asia, Europe, and the Americans, we are joined by new friends from Africa as well. It's very encouraging to see that women have more say in environmental protection. This meeting is successful and fruitful thanks to each and every one of you. On behalf of the CCRP, I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to RFP International and all the participants here. Let's give a round of applause to our guests for their wonderful speeches. The pandemic ebbs and flows. The international landscape changes constantly, and climate change escalates day by day. And we are faced with a lot of problems and difficulties. Before the COP27, United Nations Environment Programme reported rising climate risks. World Meteorological Organization also revealed if the world continues to heat up, then weather events, especially those extremely weather events like the extremely high temperatures, wildfires, and floods, will wreak havoc on society, economy, and the ecosystem. How to stop climate crisis becomes a task of our times. The international community has started to deliver on the UN 2030 agenda, and that includes RFP International and Asia Conference of Religions for Peace, ACRP as well, which put environmental conservation top on the agenda. We all agree that religious communities should provide solutions for climate change. And at the same time, we believe that the consensus we have reached should be confirmed once and again for this meeting. Religion inspires inclusiveness. A good environment boosts well-being, and people of all countries should share the benefits all together. We believe that all of the benefits we achieved should be shared together. President Xi Jinping pointed out at the first session of the 17th summit of G20 that development is only real when all countries develop together. Prosperity and stability cannot be possible in a world where the rich become richer while the poor are made poorer. That applies to global climate governance as well. Major religions around the world advocate benevolence, inclusiveness, mutual respect, and equality. Global development needs religion. For now and days to come, we should let the religious doctrines to play a better role in order to foster inclusive and open cooperation, in order to encourage environmental protection for the prosperity of all mankind, and to drive global climate governance. Religion believes in the power of action. As an old Chinese saying goes, instead of talking the talk, we must walk the walk. A good intention takes pragmatism and stamina to become a good doing. As urged at COP27, countries should honor their pledges to protect the environment. This is a must-do for the good of the future generations to come. To that end, we might have to quench desires at the cost of short-lived enjoyment and spend a lifetime striving for the preservation of the planet. Take Sahamba, a Chinese winner of the UN Champions of the Earth and Land for Life Awards as an example. After toil of 3 generations, since the 1950s, the once barren desert is now the largest man-made forest in the world. That's why we believe that religion is the source of wisdom, and religion is the source of changes. The teachings about keeping peace, austerity, and endurance help us better understand justice and interests and understand gains and losses. In our cause of planet preservation, I believe religion will be the source of the strength. Religion calls for pragmatic cooperation. In the storm of environmental crisis, all humans are in the same boat. We survive or we fail. The burdens are shared by all, and responsibilities should be the same. Countries in different stages of development face different situations. And in terms of climate change, we need different approaches and different measures. Those who fare well should help the rest with more public goods. That's what will be expected of major countries when conserving the earth. Erecting barriers or building the small yard with high walls or stoking confrontation, I believe, do not do good to anyone. As a divided and crisis-ridden world only impedes human development altogether. Around the globe, major religions shape culture and impart wisdom on their lands. That's why let's bring the world together through communication and create synergy to protect the blue planet that we call home. Dear colleagues, dear friends, Chinese religious community embraces President Xi Jinping's thought on ecological civilization and supports the environmental protection policies introduced by the Chinese government. I believe as long as we truly understand the symbiotic relationship between man and nature and advocate peace, inclusiveness, and win-win cooperation, the crisis will be sure to pass. CCRP is ready to work with RFP International around the world to seek consensus, to deliver plans, and to deepen cooperation. CCRP is ready to work together with all of our guests present here. Together, we should guard our home and leave a better future for generations to come. Distinguished guests, dear friends, our meeting is going very well and it's coming to an end. Thank you to all of you, to our staff, to our translators as well. On behalf of all participants, I would like to give my heartfelt thanks to our staff, to our translators for their work. Since this is the first time that the CCRP and the RFP International hold an international meeting together, I want to thank Professor Aziz Karam and Secretary General of RFP International and its secretariat personnel for their support and contributions. I'm looking forward to our next meeting. Thank you, everyone. And finally, let's open our camera and we will take a screenshot all together. This is our group photo. Please open your camera. Please open your camera. We will take a group photo all together. Is it okay now? Okay, we have taken the photo. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for your time and patience. Thank you.
哎呀，杨会长啊！哎呀，精彩的主持，会长，哎，我担心咳嗽。没有没有。啊，感谢眼卷法师，一直控制吧。感谢赵高成道长。
哦，慈悲慈悲。
感谢阿会长，感谢李光福道长。
Mr. Lekan, how are you?
感谢老朋友。
How are you?
My friend.
I'm fine. How are you?
还有。
啊 ，Thank you.
感谢马主教，感谢顾秘书长，感谢林总干事，感谢所有的朋友，所有的宗教领袖。
Thank you, Mr. Lekan, Mrs. Chen, everyone. Nice to see all of you. Take care. Bye.
好。
Assalamu alaikum to the President of Islamic Council, the Vice President also. Jazakallah for the chair.
Jazakallah khairan kaseera.
Wa iyyakum. Wa iyyakum.
好，谢谢，再见，拜拜。
谢谢，拜拜。
再见。
哦，3个半小时。